is on the topic of our event tonight is on the topic of circadian rhythms and sleep. And before I introduce our speakers to you, I wanted to quickly remind everyone that the views in this presentation are those of the speakers and not necessarily those of UMass Chan Medical School. And how do I advance my slides? Like this, right? Okay, and yes, and so if you have a question during the presentations, please type them in the chat box, and one of the people assisting me with the Q&As, Ruchi and Oscar, will ask the question on your behalf. At the end of the event, we also have a survey. We'll share the link with you later, so please fill that out. That really helps us with improving our events. And also, we have various social media channels. So please follow us or join our pages so that you're staying up to date with our events, especially with our YouTube channel, where we record these sessions and then we post them on the YouTube channel. So if you would like to rewatch this session, or if you'd like to watch some of our past sessions, feel free to go to our YouTube channel and follow us there. And with that, I will start to introduce our speakers. So our first speaker today is Dr. Cheng-Kao Chen. Cheng-Kao is a senior research scientist in the Emory Lab at the University of Massachusetts Chan Medical School. He received his bachelor's degree in biotechnology in China and pursued his PhD degree in Professor Rolf Stanowski's lab at the University of London in the United Kingdom. His doctoral research focused on the molecular mechanisms underlying clock synchronization using the fruit fly as a model organism. In the Emory Lab at UMass Chan, Cheng-Kao is investigating the connections between the molecular clock and clock neuron activity. Outside of the lab, he enjoys hiking and cooking. So Cheng-Kao, the floor is yours.
Let me share my screen. I'm not able to share the screen yet.
Right now?
Okay. Now I can. All right, can everybody see my screen? Good. Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Chen-Hao Chen. I'm from Emory's lab at the Department of Neurobiology in UMass Chan Medical School. First of all, I want to thank the invitation from the UMass Postdoc Association, and I'm very happy to join this Science Cafe and talk about the biological clock and its effects on the health. So, this is a very famous painting from talent artist called Salvador Dali. And in this painting, he actually represent the piece of the persistent of memory as the melt clock shown here. So although I'm not as talented as Dali in the art, but as a scientist, I'm share the same interest with Dali. That is to understand what is the time and how can we sense the time. So the time can be defined as very different scales from seconds to years. So in today's talk, I will just focus on one aspect of time, which is with a scale of 24 hours, so-called circadian rhythms. So the circadian rhythms are the physiological, mental, and behavior changes that in an organism that experience over a 24 hour. The circadian rhythm actually induced by the Earth's self-rotation. So the self-rotation of the Earth established the day and night changes. During the daytime, we have light and higher temperatures, while during the night, we have dark and lower temperatures. this change of the day and night actually makes all the organisms lived on Earth to develop a system, and they perform this pattern within a period with basis on the period of 24 hours. And as we know, that's circadian rhythms. So the circadian is originally from a Latin word, circades, that means about a day. So circadian rhythms actually can be found everywhere from almost all the organisms that live on Earth. As shown here, this is, sorry. As shown here, this is a flower opening during the daytime that can attract honeybees to spread their pollen to the neighbor flowers. And during the night, the flowers actually close. So the flower opening and close is a phenomenon of circadian rhythms. Circadian rhythms can also be found in the animals. For example, this feeding and hunting patterns is also featured by circadian rhythm. As shown here, these all actually take a rest or sleep during the daytime, while during the night he became very alert and looking for their predators and also the mice that can be used as served as food. And I think the most well-known circadian rhythm patterns in humans is awake and sleep patterns, which my colleague Ratna will discuss in detail later. So the circadian rhythm is actually this phenomenon is very very well perceived in every respect in the world. But what actually controls the circadian rhythm is that just the response to the light-dark changes, or our body actually have an endogenous timer that can sense the circadian rhythms. So to answer this question, I want to introduce this very interesting experiment or observation where they observed the sunflowers orientation during the different time of the day. So as we all know that the sunflower actually can trace the sunrise and the sunset. During the daytime, it's oriented from east when the sun rise, and in the when the sun set, they will orientate the flower face to the west. And here is a question. So if the sunflowers during the night, everybody can guess like which direction of the sunflower will face to. It will still keep on the face to the west, or it will move back to the middle, or it will move towards to the east. Particularly during the early morning before the sunrise. Okay, I think this question is finished. Let's figure out together by watching this video track. Sorry. So this is how the sunflowers behave during the night. And when it goes to the early morning, I think everybody could appreciate it will towards from the west and back to the east. We can watch this video again. So in the early morning, I hope you can appreciate that the sunflower actually face back to the east. So this phenomenon, so for the people who ever choose C, congratulations, you choose your answer is right. And so this phenomenon cannot be simply just explained by respond to the light, but it suggests that we have an endogenous system that can track the different time of the day. So we refer this endogenous time system called circadian clock, which is an endogenous timer that can regulate the organism's innate sense of time and can control the circadian rhythms. Most importantly, it's sustainable and independent of the environment. It can maintain its rhythms independent of the environmental time cues. So we know that now we know that the plant have the endogenous clock can check the circadian rhythms. What about humans? In order to answer these questions, one of the pioneer, Michel Siever, aka the caveman, actually volunteered to do this experiment, where he stayed about a month in the underground cave, where there's no any time cues. So when Michel was staying in the cave, he was connected to a lot of machines or equipment that can detect his activity pattern. So as shown here, that what you observed is a daily activity pattern through the whole experiment. The y-axis indicates the different days, and while the x-axis indicates the different time of the days. And these sig bars is an activity pattern during the different is a daily activity pattern. So when before he jumped out into the cave, Michel actually stayed about 10 days in the natural conditions. So this activity bar suggests that he will start his activity in the morning and then keep active until the midnight. So what happens when he jumps into the cave? So the first thing we immediately found is that even without any time cues, when he was in the cave, his activity is still organized, meaning that he only do his activity which at a certain time of the day, and then rest at the rest of the day. And another interesting phenomenon is although this activity is being maintained, activity patterns being maintained, but his activities start to gradually shift it to the right. That is because instead of have a period of 24 hours, now Michel have a period of 24.5 hours per day. So that's cause the overall activity pattern shifted toward to the right. After 25 days stayed in the cave, Michel was go out from the cave and back to the nature. And if you see their activity patterns once he be back to the nature, I hope you could appreciate his activity. This shifting of the activity is disappeared, and his activity is maintained stable along with a different time. That's actually so first of all, this experiment actually answers the question that indeed, like the plants, in humans, we also have endogenous or internal circadian clock systems that being able to maintain the daily rhythms even without external time cues. And another interesting finding through this experiment is this clock, this biological clock is tunable and can be adjusted by the environmental cues, as presented here after he back to the ground. His activity pattern is immediately being adjusted to the right of the time. So after several years studies, it turns out not only humans have circadian clocks, but we have a lot of clocks in each different organs, which we have a circadian clock that governs the rhythms of these organs. So, for example, we have a circadian clock in the muscles, we have circadian clock in the heart, in lungs. Those clocks are spread through our bodies called peripheral clocks. And all these clocks can be coordinated or regulated by the central master clock, which is located in the brain. The brain uses different signals, such as hormones or body temperatures, to regulate the different peripheral clock to make sure it's performed at the best time of the day. Right, so on the right, the brain can release cortisols during the daytime and melatonin during the nighttime, as shown in the green curves, to make sure we have enough energy during the daytime and enough sleep during the nighttime. And also, our body temperature is oscillated, not always 37 degrees Celsius, but it has an amplitude within 2 degrees, which the temperature will increase during the daytime and decrease during the nighttime. With all this healthy clock, that will make sure that the human physiological can function normally. However, a healthy clock can be destroyed if we have a bad behavior, bad habit, or have a bad lifestyles, such as we always do shift working or jet lag. And also, as we're getting older, our body clock can be dampened and has lower amplitude. A disrupted clock is linked tightly to a lot of diseases, such as cardiovascular diseases, or hypertension, or fat liver diseases. It's not only in fact the physiological condition of our body, but also mentally. A lot of research found that uh, people have mental illnesses such as depression or autism often also have a disrupted clock. But fortunately, the disrupted clock actually is not damaged permanently. With a better modulation or right modulation, actually it can be reversely adjusted back to a functional clock. A normal or general ways to adjust our body clock, including time-restricted feeding, because feeding can be served as a time cues to reset our body clock, or a healthy light exposure. That here it's meaning that you have to go outdoors to to interact with more natural light, which also served as a predominant time cues for our body clocks, and also regular and sufficient sleep, which will also help to boost our circadian system. Although circadian clock actually linked to a lot of disease, but here I want to further discuss one type of circadian related disease that are most commonly be found. So as a scientist, I often to attend a lot of conference, and some of these conference actually are international conference which happens in the city that are far from US. So in order to attend this conference, I have to take a, a long trip to the different countries. I always found that the first or the second days when I landed to this new country, I found headache. I often have headaches or uncomfortable stomach ache, insomnia, and most importantly, I have troubles to concentrate it, which is very important because I'm attending a conference which is supposed to learn something interesting that's related to my research. And we know that this disease is called jet lag. These all symptoms that happens to me actually referred as jet lag. The jet lag is a circadian rhythm sleep disorders that often happens when the people takes a long trip across time zones. So based on the Mayo Clinic, if you have the following syndromes, such as sleepiness during the day, or headaches, a lack of focus or concentration, extremely tired or uncomfortable stomach, or mood changes, if you have those syndromes after you have a long trip, uh, that means you probably have a jet lag disorders. You have to find a doctor for consultant. So what causes a jet lag? It turns out that the jet lag is caused by misalignment between the body clocks with the time in the new location. So let's assume that we fly from Boston to the very east, for example, Tokyo in Japan. Although it only takes maybe 14, 15 hours to fly to there. However, our internal body clock cannot be resetted to the new time zones within 15 hours. It actually takes gradually, sometimes even sometimes 1 day, but sometimes 2 days or even more days to adjust its own to the local time. It's the jet lag is actually have a many different factors actually affect the jet lag. For example, the number of the time zones that crossed. It's through the studies, it turns out that the more time zones you travel, meaning that the longer your journey is, the more likely you will have or you will feel you will suffer from the jet lag. And it also seems like depends on the direction or the orientation of your flight. So for example, you will find it's easier if you fly to the west, while you will find a little bit harder when you fly to the east. And it seems like the jet lag is also age dependent. Older adults usually need more days to recover from jet lag after they have a long-term journey. So how can we minimize the jet lag syndrome? Here is a few tips for you to minimize your syndrome after you have a long journey. So before you took the plane, try to gradually switch your try to reset your regime. For example, your feeding regions or the sleep patterns to the time of your location. You can, if you fly to the earlier time zones, you can try to get up earlier so that let your body know that or give the time to your body that you will go to the new place. And during the flight, make sure you stay hydrated, and try to drink water instead of coffee or alcohol, because coffee and alcohol actually can cause your body uh, uh, dehydrated, and also will affect your body clock. After you landed to the new location, try to go outdoors as soon as possible, or as much as possible, because the sunlight outside can help your endogenous clock to readjust to the new time. So here is another question related to the jet lag. So we know that usually the jet lag is caused by flight, but if now instead of using a flight, we take a cruise, how do you feel? Will you still suffer from the jet lag? Okay, yeah, I saw for the people who choose no, congratulations, you're right. So when you travel by cruise, luckily you will not suffer from the jet lag. That is because when we travel by the jet lag is actually is caused by the misalign of the clock to the new time. If you take a cruise, usually it travels very far, very slow compared to the flight. So that will give you enough time to let your body clock gradually adjust to the new time. So if you take a, so next time if you have a choice, choose a cruise over the flight. So now we know that circadian clocks are very important for our health. And how can we study circadian clocks? In our lab, we use Drosophila melanogaster as a model system to study circadian clock. The reason why we choose Drosophila as our model system is because, first of all, it's very quick. So from the egg to develop to an adult fly, it only takes about 2 weeks. And the second reason is very cheap. We usually grow the flies into a well that's filled with cornmeal, uh, like this. And usually, averagely in one well, we will have about 100 or even more flies, and that's only cost about $50. So because of it's quick and cheap, that allow us to perform a genetic screen and behavior screen in a very large scales. And moreover, the fly system already developed a lot of genetic tools and other tools that allow us to label and manipulate certain genes or cell types to investigate their functions in circadian rhythms. So we also refer to Drosophila as a Swiss knife for the genetic studies. Last, but most importantly, is through the Human Genome Project, the scientists found that the Drosophila genome is actually highly conserved with the human genome, with almost 70% of genes that are conserved to the human genes. So whatever we learned from flies in the circadian rhythm can be applied to ourselves. In 2017, three pioneers in the circadian research field, Jeffrey Hall, Michael Rauschbach, and Michael Young, being awarded as a Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicines for their contribution to uncover the mechanism of controlling the circadian rhythms. I want to highlight here that all these three scientists are using Drosophila fruit flies as their research models to study circadian clock. So here I want to give you one example that how we study jet lag in Drosophila. So we usually use locomotor activity behavior as output for the circadian rhythms. So as shown here, we just put the flies and let it fly from Boston to London, which have 6 hour difference. So if the fly get up at 8 a.m. in Boston, once he arrived in London, it's 8 a.m. in London, but it's 2 a.m. in Boston. So they will have like 6 hour difference. So if we keep these flies, let them to stay in Boston for 2 days, and here is the activity pattern shown here. So unlike the humans, the fly have two activity peaks, once around the morning time, once around the evening time. So at the third days, we ask the Drosophila actually fly from Boston to London. You can see the activity is gradually shifted to London, but it usually takes 1 or 2 days to reset it. To let the Drosophila actually to reset their clocks to the new place where in London. So I think this is more easier to understand this behavior in this activity in this phase plot, where this the single dot represents the maximum activity at a different time of the day. So when the fly is in Boston, they have their activity peak around right before the night off, and at the third day, you can see once the flight take the flight to start to take the flight to London, their activity peak start to shift it, but they will not immediately get the activity in London. They usually takes 1 day for them to readjust their clock. That's what happens in the Y type or the normal flies. So in our research through the large-scale genetic screen, we found a protein called cry. So if the flies carry the mutant of the cry, or the flies don't have cries, if you see the activity plot, I hope you can appreciate that instead of using 1 day in the white flies, the mutant flies actually takes 3 or 4 more days to readjust their activity back, or circadian rhythm back. That's this data actually suggesting that cry is very important for the jet lag, and we can use the cry as a target for potential drug design, so that hopefully we can in 1 day we can cure the jet lag. We don't need to suffer from that when we have a long journey. I want to stop here. I hope today I could convince you that circadian clock is very important for our health. And here I want to give you some tips that how can we boost our circadian rhythms. So which are spend more times outside during the daytime, especially during the morning, because light is the most predominant time cues for resetting the circadian clock. And eat meals at regular times each of the day, because feeding or food is also a very important time cues that can be used to adjust your clock. Go to bed and wake up at the same time, so at a regular time, not only during the weekdays but also during the weekends, because the sleep and awake is controlled by circadian rhythm, and if you the regular sleep and the wake time is actually can boost up your circadian clock. And overall, it's I want to highlight that if you have a healthy clock, you have a happy life, no matter at a physical level, physiological level, or mental level, because circadian is very important for both areas. So that's for my talk today. I want to first thanks my supervisor Patrick Emery for his support for my research, and all the lab members that are helped me give me a lot of help during my experiments. And we have this is our lab page. If you want to find more information regarding to circadian rhythm, you can find the information there. And also, this is my email address. I'm happy to discuss more specific more details with you. And last but not least, I want to thanks again for the UMass Postdoc Association for their invitation, and I'm very happy to discuss more about circadian clock and answer your questions. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Shenkao. That was a very interesting talk. I certainly learned a lot. And so we will now proceed to questions, and I see a few questions in the chat. So Ruchi?
Yeah, thank you very much, Shinghao, to share your research with us, and we enjoyed your talk thoroughly. And we have some questions in the chat box. Like Bobibo want to ask that why it is easier to fly to the west compared to the east.
That is because of our circadian clocks are easier to go delay other than go at once. So if you fly to the west, that means the your local time is actually earlier than your destination's time. That we call delay. So your body clock turns to go, or it's easier to facilitate to the delay other than other in advance. So that's the reason why.
Okay, so we have another question. Chandrasekhar Mishra from the audience. He's asking that he has 3 questions, but I will ask one by one. Does circadian response have a memory response? Is it related to the memory?
So circadian clock is definitely modulate or regulate memories. So a lot of cells that are our brains that controlled or that controlled the function of memory also have a molecular clock or have clocks in that. So if you have a disrupted clock, that can affect your memory. And on the other, and moreover, that sleep is actually the timing of the sleep, or the sleep is actually regulated by circadian clock, and sleep is also important for memory formation and memory recovery. That I think right now my colleague will discuss. Will tell you more about that in that aspect.
Yes. So he has another question. Are the key players involved in the circadian rhythm conserved across plant, animal kingdom? And if they have any master regulator, is there?
That's a very good question. The in terms of the genes, they are not very conserved through the whole through the plant to the animals. However, the overall principle is conserved, at least in the animal kingdom. So that's basically I don't have the slides here, but we in the animals, or both in flies and in mammals, we use a molecular principle called transcriptional feedback loop to maintain our circadian rhythms. That are the overall principle is conserved from insects like fruit flies to mammals like mice or humans. In terms of plants have their own clock, so there is a bit divergent between plants and animals. But in animals, the overall principle is conserved. Yes.
Yeah, he has another question, like circadian clock in animals and most likely in plants associated with sunlight. Is it true for species that do not have access to direct sunlight, like deep ocean animals, for that matter, and flies that we love, that we used to work in lab?
I think deep ocean, you mean that they don't have light?
Direct sunlight.
I guess that's your question. Yeah. So that's a very good question. Actually, one of our camp members are actually working on a marine biology called Pirali, which is a shrimp. They usually grow in the areas which are deep in the sea. They don't get enough light in treatment. So without light, it turns out they can use other time cues, such as different titles during the days, and other time cues that to entrain or to reset their clock. So the time cue, in terms of the time cues, is, although light is the most predominant time cues, but they do have other time cues exist. For example, oscillated temperature can also serve as a Zygaber there.
Yeah. So Oscar want to ask that, do animals living underground or in deep sea have circadian rhythm, which you have answered already, I guess. So we have another question from Chandrasekhar. I just want to say that, okay. So he wanted to say that the memory was not brain related, but like what we have immune response. Can you train the organism by either acquired or adaptive response?
So first of all, the immune system do have clocks. So that's actually they actually, a lot of papers showed that or research showed that that at a different time of the day, our immune system sometimes are very strong, sometimes are sensitive, very sensitive, and sometimes are more vulnerable to the external bacterial infections. But in terms of how you train your so how can you enhance, I guess your question is how can you enhance your immune system. As I mentioned, because those immune system also have circadian clocks, so by boost up the strength of the circadian clock, you can boost up the immune system at some point.
Okay.
But if you but immune system has a circadian clock, but it also dependent on other factors as well.
Other factors.
I hope
Thank
that
you,
answers your
Shinghao,
question.
for the answers.
Thank
And
you.
I think we should move on now. And if you have any other question for Shinghao, you can directly email him or meet him. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
over to Alicia.
Thank you, Ruchi, and thank you again, Cheng Hao, for the interesting talk and the Q&A session. So now we'll move on to our second speaker for today. Our second speaker is Dr. Ratna Chaturvedi. Ratna is an instructor at the Neurobiology Department of UMass Chan Medical School, and she's working with Professor Patrick Emery. Ratna earned her PhD from the Indian Institute of Technology in Kharagpur, India, and she further honed her research skills with postdoctoral work at UMass Chan Medical School in the Neurobiology Department. Ratna's current research focuses on the intriguing roles of glial cells in regulating sleep behavior using the fruit fly as the model organism. When she's not unraveling the mysteries of the brain, she loves to travel and explore new destinations. Ratna, thank you so much for being here and for presenting your work. The mic is yours.
Thank you so much. Okay, can I just share my screen? Is it visible to everyone? Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you so much, Alicia, for your kind introduction. And I'm very happy to discuss about the work that I'm doing in the lab, as well as the sleep role in how it is regulated. Cheng Hao has given a very good idea about the circadian regulation, which is one of the regulatory component of sleep, but I would be talking about in general, like the sleep and its impact on the health. So we all are familiar with the, like our sleep and the wake cycle, that we go in the sleep during the night, and after a certain time of spending in the sleep, we wake up in the morning next day and we feel fresh and active. And when you are not asleep, your sleep is not completed, the next day morning you'll not be feeling as active and like alert. If you're sleep deprived. So I would like to post a question here that what do you think, guys, a 70 years old healthy person, how much time that person would be spending in sleep, in his entire lifetime? Like options are 23 years, 5 years, and 10 years. Okay. So yeah, I mean, great that everyone has selected the right answer. So I would stop it here, and yes, you guys are right. It is 23 years. And that's a large amount of time that we spend sleeping, indicates that sleeping is definitely very important to sustain life on this planet. And so we spend about 1/3 of life asleep, and which is a very large amount of time. There are certain interesting facts facts like that you cannot survive without sleep for more than 11 days, which is around 264 hours. And if you are sleep deprived or not sleeping for 24 to 48 hours, you will already start experiencing various dangerous side effects, like your mood will not be like stable, and also you'll not be as alert as you are if you're well slept. And after, like, if you're not sleeping for 3 to 4 nights, you will start hallucinating, imagining, and like seeing things which is actually not real. So that indicates that how sleep is important to for our brain to perform at its optimum function. So there are like almost like over 70 different diseases has been reported that that comes in the category of sleep disorder. Some of the examples are sleep apnea, sleepwalking, and insomnia. Insomnia being most common. If you look at the stats, around 30 to 45% of the adult population is somehow somewhere is suffering from some degree of insomnia, some like a milder to the severe level. And if you look at the stats from the American Sleep Association in 2021, 50 to 70 million adults in the US alone are affected by some kind of sleep disorder. And this is a huge number. And it's not only sleep disorder that you experience or your like the behavior, you also experience with the chronic sleep loss, like your overall metabolism of the body is affected. In general, like if you look at the sleep loss in a chronic level, you might experience, along with the cognitive dysfunction, a lot of metabolic disorders. It can, put you in a condition where you have a high chances of weight gain, as well as it can, create a condition where you have early onset of various metabolic disorders, which include diabetes and various cardiovascular diseases, for example, high blood pressure. So sleep overall is very important for your mental and physical health. Now I would like to post a question here is like, what do you think? Like during sleep, do you think your brain is resting or inactive, or you think that the brain is active and performing different functions? Okay, so it seems like there is, I can't see any poll here. Okay, yeah. Right. So I would like to, yeah, everyone guessed correct. It's active. So basically, brain is performing different function when you are sleeping compared to when you're awake. And in that way, you can say that sleep is a very active process. And it's required for your, like overall performance because some of the important function that sleep play a role is like it helps you the clearance of all the toxin byproducts that being produced from various metabolic activities in your brain and body. And most of these clearance happens during your sleep. And this is a paper that published in Science in 2019, where they have measured the clearance rate of various toxins using fMRI, and what they have found that during sleep, the rate of clearance is much faster in those human beings who are well slept compared to the people who are sleep deprived. So that suggests that sleep is actively involved in clearance of various toxins from your body and brain. Another important function of sleep is in learning and memory formation. So when you're awake, you're performing various tasks, you are learning, you're encoding those information in your brain. And for example, you have learned in, like in a class where the Paris is the capital of France. And then these information, this is encoded in your brain during sleep. You consolidate in the form of a memory. So sleep is very important for the memory consolidation of those informations that you have gathered while learning. And later on, when you being asked these questions that what is the capital of France, and you can retrieve those information and recall your memory from your memory, and then you can because you already know that the capital of France is Paris. For example, so what I mean to say here is if you're well slept, you will be forming a very good quality memory compared to if you're sleep deprived. So in addition to that, sleep loss has been already in many researches has been reported to neurodegenerative disorders. So it has been observed that in case of Alzheimer patients, the sleep deprivation promotes the Alzheimer's pathology. And also 3/4 of people living with the Parkinson disease is also suffer from some kind of sleep disorders. And all these data suggest that sleep is also neuroprotective. So if your sleeping quality improved in those patients, the symptoms can be better managed. Now, how do we look at the sleep quality? We use a device called electroencephalogram. In short, we call it EEG, which has electrodes. We put these electrodes on the head, and then we measure different brain waves. And based on these brain waves, we can say that measure the quality of the sleep. So because these brain waves are very different when you're active and when you're asleep. And sleep has different stages, and these different stages have different types of brain waves. So you can easily measure that how much time you're spending during different stages of the sleep, and that's how the people, like in humans, sleep is measured. So broadly, if you look at that, there are two primary stages of sleep. One is called non-rapid eye movement. In short, we call this non-REM. And the other is called rapid eye movement that we call REM sleep. These are dependent on the movement of eye. So during the non-REM, while you're sleeping, your eye doesn't move, and when you are spending time in REM sleep, your eye will move very fast. The non-REM stages can be further divided into 3 stages. So there are different stages when you are sleeping, and this is forming a sleep cycle. So in one sleep cycle, when you are entering in the sleep phase, that is a non-REM first, stage 1. This is a light transition of lighter sleep, and you feel very drowsy when you are entering in this first step, and it lasts from 2 to 7 minutes. After this, you enter in a more stable sleep phase, which is called a stage 2 non-REM sleep. And in this stage, there are a lot of various chemicals being produced in your brain that kind of stop your senses, increases the threshold of those sensory gates, so that it will be harder for you to wake up. In stage 1, it will be very easy for you to wake up. If somebody is calling your name, you can wake up from the stage 1. But when somebody is calling your name in stage 2, and if you're in the stage 2, it will be harder for you to wake up. So after that, you will enter into the deep sleep, which is the last stage of the non-REM sleep. And this is a very important stage, because this is the stage when you prepare and form a lot of memories, consolidate a lot of memories that you haven't learned from the information that you have gathered during the day. And also it is important because it helps you in body repair processes, a lot of growth hormones being secreted in the body that helps in your restoration of the various body processes. Okay. After this third stage, you enter into the fourth stage, which is a REM stage. And this is a stage where you start dreaming. So this is specific stages. Mostly the dream mostly occur at REM stage, and this also helps in consolidating your memory, stabilizing your memory. And after spending your REM stage, which can last somewhere 10 minutes to like 60 minutes, you re-enter into the stage 1 and you complete one cycle. And this one cycle is around 90 to 120 minutes, and therefore in one night you generally complete 4 to 5 cycles per night if you're spending 7 to 8 hours in sleeping. So that's how the sleep cycle happens in human. And now in our lab, we are more interested to know that how the sleep is regulated at molecular level, at network level, and we want to dissect out the neurons that is involved in the regulation of sleep. For this, what we know is that there are 2 major regulatory components in the sleep regulation. One has already been discussed by Shengao, that one is circadian regulation, which is totally time dependent, and it decides when you are going to fall asleep and when you are awake. And the second important component is called the homeostatic sleep component, which determines the sleep duration. And this is totally based on your duration of wakefulness. because the longer you stay awake, the longer you build up the sleep pressure. And if you have more sleep pressure, you will experience, the more sleepiness, and you will need a longer sleep duration to complete or like recover from those sleep pressure. So this you can all appreciate that if you're not slept well in the night, next day morning, if you're going to work, you feel very sleepy and you'll not be as alert. And then you can realize that, oh, your experience is more sleep pressure because your homeostatic regulation is taking over your circadian regulation. So if you are sleep deprived, most of the time, this is your homeostatic regulation that takes over the circadian regulation. It doesn't matter what is the time of the day, you still feel sleepy, and there comes a point when you cannot resist but fall asleep. And that's how the sleep, is required to, like a sleep pressure keeps building up, and that there will be a point when you cannot build furthermore sleep pressure, but you have to fall asleep to recover from that pressure. So far I have discussed about only humans, but the sleep is not limited to humans. It is conserved across animal. All animals sleep, and they need sleep for the same purpose, for their overall survival, their overall better mental and physical health. So in same applies to Drosophila. So in our lab, we use Drosophila as a model system to study sleep. The reason why we use Drosophila is already explained by Sheng Hao in his talk. So I will not go in details, but what I'll tell you is that Drosophila has a very easy system where we monitor its locomotion activity, and we use a locomotion activity as a readout to monitor the sleep behavior in Drosophila. Now, as I discussed before, that they have a two sleep components, circadian component as well as a homeostatic component. And in Drosophila, these two components exist. Like circadian component determines the time of the sleep in Drosophila, and homeostatic component determines the sleep pressure. And these circuits are have been discovered by scientists, and people are working on it for more details. But circadian neurons is for a very long time it's been discovered and known how many circadian neurons are regulating the circadian behavior, and which also regulates the sleep timing. However, the homeostatic component are still people are working on. A lot is known, a lot is not known, and we are working to know that what are the other components, what are the other molecules and the networks and the neurons involved in the regulation of sleep homeostasis. I would give you a very quick example that we have found in our lab by mutating certain genes, that there are disturbances that we can monitor in the sleep by causing certain generating certain 5 mutants, and we can use those mutants to study the mechanism of action of those genes. So this is an example of the sleep profile. The black curve indicates the normal sleep pattern. The green curve indicates the mutant sleep pattern, and this is a mutant of a GABA transporter. What we saw that when we mutated GABA transporter, the Drosophila sleep has increased during day and night both. And that suggests that GABA transporter mutation causes the GABA signaling defect. And because of the GABA signaling defect, there is a problem in the sleep behavior. The more detailed research that you can find is already published online. So you can go online and look at this in the publication. And I'm happy to talk in details. But because in interest of time, I don't have much time to discuss. So I would like to just show another mutant that I am working on, this mutant where I have CRISPR deleted this particular gene, and this mutant is represented by the red curve. And when you mutate this gene, you can see the amount of sleep was reduced compared to the normal amount of sleep, which is represented by the black curve. So in both the cases, day and night, you can see that the sleep was reduced. And why I'm presenting these two mutants, because you can see that very opposite effect that you can see. In the first mutant, you can see there is an increase in amount of sleep, and the second mutant, you can see a decrease in amount of sleep. So that's how we discovered gene using Drosophila. We can use this, and later on, what we can found is that similar homology is also exists in other animals and higher animals, and we can found the mechanism of action, and that might be similar and same might be happening in higher animals, including humans. So in short, what I would like to highlight here is Drosophila is a powerful model to understand the basic neuronal and molecular underpinnings of sleep. And also we have a very strong understanding and a very good understanding of flight genetics. And it has a very simple, locomotion based sleep assay that can be used as a readout. So it's not, it's based on these simple assays that you can identify a great number of genes which are critical for the sleep regulation. And also we have in the Drosophila have an unmatched tool to dissect and manipulate everything at the neuronal level, because when you're using different sleep drugs, it affects a various like pathway and various neurons in the brain. But you using the different genetic tools, for example, we have tools like alpha drivers and many other intersectional approaches that we can use to apply and dissect out at the neuronal level, at the single neuron level, that how they are connected, how they are regulating sleep, and we can, use it to understand the sleep regulation much better. With this, I would like to acknowledge every my lab people for their support, the funding agencies, our collaborator and UMPA for giving me opportunity to discuss my work today. And thank you very much for your attention. Happy to take questions. And if you have any more questions, feel free to contact me. This is my email and I can discuss with you in details about my research. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ratna. It was very interesting talk.
Thank you.
So I would like to start with a question from Raman. How does sleeping pills work? Right? He wanted to ask.
There are different medications which affects different receptors in the brain. Like for example, as I told you, GABA has a very important role in sleep regulation. So a lot of pills that target the GABA receptors, basically. So they kind of, enhance the GABA signaling, and that helps putting you into the sleep. There are other ways, like if you want to readjust the timing of sleep is a problem, or maybe you're not producing enough melatonin at the right time, you can take a melatonin as a drug, and that can induce you or put you into sleep. So there are different pathways and different pills affects those different pathways to influence sleep behavior.
Okay, and then how much sleep will be the good sleep to recover your body?
Very good question. And at least 7 to 8 hours for an adult.
Okay.
They should sleep to recover your body, and every day they should be an habit, which is hard, I know, at times, but try to be 7 to 8 hours is the optimum time.
I have a quick follow-up question. So in the summer and winter, obviously the time rises and sets at different times. Should we try to align our sleep with the sunrise and sunset, or obviously
Yeah.
not possible probably all the time, but would you suggest to sort of change the time when you wake up in the summers versus winters?
Yeah, I think in terms of light, you should readjust because it readjusted, it's just your biological clock. So sleep is like one, circadian clock also regulates your sleep, and one of the circadian clock giver or the cue is coming from the light. So if there is a big difference, then you can readjust and it helps. But yeah, I mean, if a small amount of difference, I don't think it's going to affect a larger level. I think Shanghai can answer it better because it has a circadian role.
Yes. So what do you think, Ratna? Like after understanding the mechanism of sleeping, can we fine-tune the sleeping in people having disorders? And
Yes,
what do you
yes.
say?
That was the purpose of working on sleep, because we need to know that how can we manipulate, and the people who are having difficulties falling asleep, they have a problem. Like for example, there are different kinds of problems. Like for example, some people are having difficulty in falling asleep. Some people are having problem in maintaining a sleep because they're easy to fall asleep, but they have a very fragmented sleep. Some people are having problem like in case of narcolepsy, because there are different stages. Generally, you enter in the non-REM first stage when you are sleeping, but sometimes what happens is instead of entering into non-REM stage, what if you just enter into the REM stage directly? So those are the sleep disorders or problems that we need to figure it out, that what are the networks, what are the neurons, and what are the, like how they are working and how they are involved to regulate these behavior or these stages. And if you know that, probably will be helping a lot of people by finding, those can be our drug targets. And then we can design something for those targets.
Thank you, Ratna, for the insightful discussion. Thank you very much to
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and your attention.
Alicia, you can take over.
Thank you so much again to both speakers, and thank you all for joining. I would just like to mention, if everyone would take an extra minute to fill out our event survey, we would greatly appreciate your feedback. And stay tuned for our next event. Thank you so much all for joining tonight. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.